I like to call them glimmers, right? You have triggers and you have glimmers. Glimmers are, I've observed this. I've actually gone into a theta state and I saw a future version of me reorienting the physical universe as I knew it in high speed, where it was like, hey, Drew. And it was me like phasing in like the Flash, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or like behind a door or a glass window. And I'm like, what was that? And then you tune in and it's like, wait, that was me. So you're actually working. What I like to think is I'm actually working as a guide on the side for the actor, which is Drew in this seat, but there's a director going on where it's like moving through time and space and creating the reality that we're actually viewing. And they give you these glimmers to be like, hey, hey, are you awake? Right. And if you're awake to tune into the stream of the glimmer enough, like it's almost like a warp field, like opening in Star Trek when your physical body goes through it and all of a sudden you're in a different dimension. Well, then you can jump a timeline. So if you can jump into a different timeline that has a higher vibration by tracking glimmers, it's actually, and then your whole life becomes heaven on earth.
I love what you said, how if you can follow the glimmer, you can jump a timeline.
You can follow the glimmer.
I heard this thing where it was saying that, I read it. It was saying, you know, we often think about going back in time and then butterfly effect, like don't change anything or you're going to fuck up the whole world. But we don't think about now being a butterfly effect to create a future.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that's like, we know how powerful we are if we went in the past and changed everything. Like we would, you know, dismantle the universe.
Yeah.
But why not dismantle it now?
You could do both.
Right.
Because
but if you don't think of time as not being linear, which is again a program.
And time is a memory. And you can alter your memories.
That's so true, because think about how inaccurate like a eyewitness is.
Exactly.
Right? Or think about how inaccurate our memories are of our traumas.
Well, I like to relate that to a fax machine. So if you fax something 50 times, 100 times, how clear is the fax? Going back and looking at it after you do,
right?
That's your memory. So if you can go back and reorient yourself to the memory that you had, be it the abuse that I had, right? I've done this a lot. Where it's like, I'll go back, look at it with vivid color, change it to black and white, imagine circus music playing behind it, imagine people laughing like this isn't the real reality. What's the reality that I want? And then I imagine that. Well, then it's a much more empowering past.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just a victim, not only mentally, but also physically, because a lot of those emotions are stored in your fascia, in your tissue, in your muscle.
Oh, your gut. Like, think about like, and that's not to minimize the experience of being a victim, right? I think that's the misconception that occurs is we think if we choose to take a memory and make it empowering and transformative, and actually that moment we decide to change how we see what's occurred to us, to perhaps changing it to for us, then all of a sudden we are now using that as the juice, as the like fuel to create something like Organifi.
Yeah,
right?
trauma's fuel.
Create the love. Like these were all born from places of pain where it was like, I don't know how we're going to get there, but this matters to me now. And I think it really reminds us that like the things that break our heart are not by accident. And you might be the first person, you were the first person in whatever your father's lineage is to navigate and actually confront the trauma.
So the bigger question is, was it my father or was it me? And that's how you heal all the second chakra stuff that we were talking about even before this podcast, where it's like, if you can truly forgive, right? Like what you went
to
through.
Be right. We were talking about
separation.
Carolyn Mace talks about how the second commandment is communion, to be in union.
Yeah.
And if you hold something as opposed or resent or anger, you see it as other. And so you're separate from.
Yeah.
And to heal it is actually to send love to the thing you hate.
We think
but we're all capable of these things.
Yeah.
That's also like the mind fuck of being a human, is that we project our own morality onto others or our own experience. We don't believe that we're capable of doing anything that we see what we consider evil people doing.
And I know you are.
Everyone is.
And I know I am.
But that actually, the belief that you're not capable is actually what makes you susceptible.
And that's where judgment comes in.
But our families, our cultures are not oriented around that.
Must punish these people because they're different than us.
Not this like I mean, look at how we treat the earth. It's like extractive, not restoration.
Yeah.
You know, not working in symbiosis with it, which is the same union, communion, community, working in symbiosis. Because like what else heals people than to be loved? And I think, you know, what's challenging about not doing the work within oneself, like you were talking about, like that work of self-love, of nourishment, of...
Yeah.
Because like to put foods that you know don't make you feel good in your body And this isn't like villainizing types of foods or having balance, but it's like to put something you know makes you feel bad in your body is not to be in a loving, reverent relationship to your body. And then we're like, well, maybe it's because I have this or I had trauma. Sure, we can always come up with reasons. It's not to minimize reasons, but it's to say like, when are you going to decide that it's done, that you get to actually, and how do I, if you tell me you love me, but I don't make decisions that validate that, I won't believe you.
Mm-hmm.
So the level of, that saying is like the depth to which you can love another is always limited by
Love
the
yourself.
depth to which you love yourself. But I think through love, like, being able to look into the eyes of someone who loves unconditionally is to wake up something within us that we know is possible, but have not experienced yet. So that's why I think the discomfort of being loved by someone who we don't know how to receive, if we really accept that gift, it will make us go to a place. That's why I think relationship, although I think it is one of the ultimate
greatest
super
teachers.
highways, to the path to liberation from patterns, from codependency, from trauma. Because like if you love someone enough, a child, I think, is in a very special opportunity for that. But if you love them enough, like if you look at them and you accept that it's pure. It's like that could actually be the vehicle to be done with all your addictions, all your bullshit.
I used to play around with that. I would be in coffee shops and restaurants, and I would look at a waitress or a waiter, and I would just visualize them as God, as Jesus in disguise, right?
I've done this. It's fucking wild.
And I would literally, and you know this because you've done it, I would literally see them completely shift and change. If they could be in the worst mood ever, like they'd come over and give me an attitude, and I'm like, okay, let me Jedi mind. These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Yeah, let me Yeshua you.
Yeshua you. Yeah, and their energy completely changes because you're literally viewing somebody as if they are God. And I think that's the way we get to look at every human being. We're not separate from them. You're not separate from Justin Trudeau.
No.
I'm not separate from
He's a gift for me to heal things, to evolve. Because one thing I've learned in volume in the last 3 years is how to be with opposition and love it, how to be with difference and love it, how to be different and seek to love that, what it's causing for me, the
contrast,
the pain, the feeling of a lack of belonging, knowing that actually belonging is still here. It's just the perception of how
100%.
See, it doesn't mean there's a minimization of the pain that's occurring in the 3D, but it's like my mind is what's causing the suffering, which that's a really confronting thing to explore, because then you realize that you could actually just shift how you see things, which will then shift your suffering, which will then shift your body. Right.
This is how you see it, and also equally as important is the standard in which you hold them and the standard in which you hold yourself. So if you're looking to have the most epic relationship, and you know this just as well as I do, because I've attracted my beloved, and she's absolutely this angel on earth. Everywhere she goes, she's like raising the vibration. But at the standard that I had to hold Drew, young Drew, the tortured Drew, had to shift. And there was levels to that. It's like, how much love can I let in my heart? What about these triggers? It's the analogy is, we've all heard this, but it's like the fat hand pressing the buttons. It's like I had this gigantic mitten with just one giant finger, and anything anybody did, it was like,
one button.
One button. I was triggered all the time. And then I just, eventually I'm getting to this place and I still have triggers, but it's like, wait a minute, she's not separate from me. She's actually God speaking to me through her vessel. And it's like, she has this innate wisdom that I don't have. Let me listen to her a little bit more. And then when I'm in my highest, it's like I'm not triggered by anything. It's like I literally see the unconditional love pouring out of her and the love coming from her. And it's like, how can I give more love to that? How can I treat her like an altar? And this kid that's coming into this earth plane, this little baby girl, how can I actually receive her as the altar and just love her up more than any human possibly could? And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Dude, that's going to be epic.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge you for navigating those edges.
Oh my God.
When I think about like the exhaustion or I just keep coming back to like, this is the dojo. Like there are not many opportunities.
No.
That are, and I gotta tell you, there's moments where I get kicked out of the dojo. But when I come back and I'm like, this is the work, like, can I find an extra second in this trigger? Can I sit just a little longer? Can I be with my reactivity and ask it questions?